You have questions, we have answers. This is Jane Miller.
And this is Ken Miller. Welcome to our show, all about real estate with Ken and Jane. And happy Labor Day weekend. We hope everybody's down at the beach and enjoying the weather and most importantly, being safe.
That's right, being safe. That's today's topic.
Yes, absolutely, Jane. Very good prelude. Today we have with us as our special guests, Fire Marshals Jaysen, Whalen, and Sean Verdi, both of the East Brunswick Fire Department. Gentlemen, big welcome to our show.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you for having us.
Oh, it's our pleasure. So to get started with, let's talk a little bit about what inspired each of you to pursue a career as a fire official.
All right, so it all started back when I was younger. I mean, I grew up around the firehouse. My dad was a volunteer in East Brunswick before I was even born. So I pretty much grew up around the firehouse, fell in love with it, as you can imagine. When I was able to join, I joined the volunteer end. Back in 1995, I became a firefighter with East Brunswick. Worked my way up through the ranks there, and then saw that there was something called a fire inspector. So I was curious, what is a fire inspector? What does a fire inspector do? What does that job entail? So I looked into it and got my certifications for it, and I got hired in East Brunswick. 2005. So I've been an inspector with East Brunswick ever since, and then recently promoted 3 years ago to fire marshal.
Oh,
so, yeah.
I still remember, Jaysen, that was about 10, 12 years ago. That was before, I think it's before either Christmas or New Year Eve. We had urgent people need to come in, and you were kind enough to accommodate. Otherwise, the family has to either leave in the hotel or on the street.
Right.
In the winter, that's not a good time.
No.
Yeah, I remember that. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. But yeah, it's I love my job. It's I like I'm there to help people, make sure everybody's safe. That's at the end of the day.
Yeah, that's the most important thing. Yes, absolutely.
That's absolutely
Safety.
Yes.
Yeah. You guys are really inspirational. Just all the first responders.
Yes.
A big round of applause. Police, fire, EMS. Yeah. What about you, Sean? How did you get into the fire field?
I got into the fire field a little different than Jaysen. I grew up in Jersey City, so I have a lot of friends that were firefighters. Their fathers were firefighters. And one day, one of my friends gave me an application for the fire department, and I was in college at the time. I took the test, and I knew about the job, but then once you take the test, you start really getting into it, like Jaysen said, and so I started asking more questions, seeing more things, and then I got hired in 1992 in Jersey City, and then just going to calls and seeing things in buildings that weren't correct, I found the information into becoming an inspector, to do that, and then applied for the job, and I've been in East Brunswick since 2000. I was there 10 years for the fire inspector, and then in 15 years now as a fire marshal. So I've been there for 25 years in East Brunswick.
Wow.
So got a vast experience between both of you guys. You guys are a wealth of knowledge,
Yeah.
Which is great. So on a day-to-day basis, what's your role? What is the exact role of a fire marshal do?
On a day-to-day basis, we have people underneath us, fire inspectors. So we give them their what we call grids or areas to inspect. So we make sure they're going out and doing the inspections for the town. And then just dealing with day-to-day, like when the realtors come in, we deal with them. Or state stuff we have to deal with because we have to do things for the state. So.
Yeah. We're also in charge of doing all the fire prevention programs throughout the town.
Yeah.
During Fire Prevention Month, we go to all the schools, and I'll reach out to the kids. And also at the later in the year, towards the end, maybe April, May, we bring the fire safety trailer to all the schools. It's I don't know if you guys had ever seen it before. It's set up like a little house in there, and we bring the kids through different stations and show them what to do in case of an emergency. We got different fire hazards set up, and they get to pick out which is unsafe and the safe way to do things, stuff like that.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
So even the fake smoke in there too, so they can experience what it could be like if your bedroom was filled with smoke and how to evacuate.
The happiest day for our town, at least, right, for East Brunswick, is when the Christmas, the the Santa.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Whole town is
Yeah.
like
Mhm.
really
Yeah.
the Santa.
Yeah,
They come down our
coming
street.
down.
I get to see the Santa in the fire
Yeah.
truck.
Yep.
That is the
Yes.
coolest.
Yeah, they throw the
That's
candy out to the
cool.
kids and everything.
Yes,
Yeah, no,
that's very
everybody
cool.
loves it. Yeah.
Oh, well, because in a few months we're there.
Yeah,
we're
I can't
there.
believe it. Yeah,
Yes,
it'll be here
that's
before we know
right.
it.
Which
Yep.
is still
That's
something
right.
to talk about. As soon as we got,
Yes.
hopefully we have a long, nice fall before we
Yeah,
get to the Christmas holiday season.
I guess your guys never had a boring day because every day is different. I still
Right.
remember, Sean, back long time ago. That time I was a brand new agent, right?
Okay.
Somehow, the seller agent failed the inspection. Okay, the fire inspection. At that time, that was like 2011, I think. There's a lot of short sale. So if you don't close by the date of short sale, your file get closed, go back to square one. When you go back square one, maybe another 2, 3, 4 months waiting, you could get a different underwriter, you could pay more or not proof. A lot of unknown, right? We already went that far. And the seller agent wait for the last minute, believe it or not. So she filed it. I think that was a Thursday. I think that time, right?
Okay.
And then we have a closing on Monday. So in the Friday morning, I showed
You can
up.
pay a lot of money if you want it. If it's an emergency,
Yeah.
I know that we're gonna get
No,
info.
no. The thing is, I showed up in the fire department. That was a bill still there in the morning, 8 o'clock. As soon as I came in, I started to cry. I didn't try to get a sympathy or anything. I was just so nervous and upset. I started to cry like uncontrollably. And he said, "What's the matter?" He doesn't know me. So I told him the story. He said, "Oh, okay." He said, "I have a few things to do today. I can't give you a time. And maybe around lunchtime, whatever, I will call you and I will help you out." I said, "Okay." After I left there, I drove to the house. I was sitting in the car, wait for a whole morning. I wouldn't dare to call again. I was just in the car. And finally he called. He said, "Oh, I can call." I said, I'm here. And when he knew I was there whole morning, he said, "Why are you sitting the whole morning?" I said, "I was so nervous. I didn't know what else to do. I was sitting here." The seller agent couldn't believe I would get that certificate. Because, obviously I went back again in the morning, get the contractor to make sure all applying
Right.
because she felt because the reason, right? You should ask what was needed. So, your guys, both guys know us, right? We check everything.
Right.
We help the seller. We make sure get a fire certificate done well, in advance.
Yeah.
So, yes, that's the story about District 2.
That's true. Right. So now we're going to talk about for a residential home what's typically involved, because as the law has it, for any time in New Jersey when you sell a residential home or you change tenants, you need a fire inspection, a new
Right.
fire certificate. That's a statewide mandate. There have been certain rule changes back and forth. With first the fire extinguisher was or wasn't required, and now it's like
Right.
so we're going to get all into that good stuff. And,
So, like Ken said, anytime, change of an occupancy or change of a tenant, it could be a rental, not just sales, needed to apply for an application with us, either with his district or my district, to come out and do the inspection of the home for the it's for the smoke detector, carbon monoxide detector, and it used to be extinguisher.
Right.
I'll get into that in a second, but mainly what we're coming in to look for, and this is a state law, everybody in the state must do this. You have to have a working smoke detector on each level of the home, okay, in the basement, first floor, second floor, and at minimum, you got to have a carbon monoxide detector within 10 feet of the bedrooms, okay? Even if that bedroom's are on the first floor or second floor, both areas will need it.
Yep.
And it also, too, depending on like the age of the home and when it was constructed, or, homes pretty much built before 1977 don't have hardwired detectors.
Yes.
Yeah.
Unless
there's always an exception.
Yeah, unless there was like an addition put on the house and then they were
Yeah.
required to be brought up to code
Yes.
during the construction inspection for that.
Right.
But at minimum you have to have a 10-year sealed battery detector.
Right, and that's a
yeah.
good change that happened that I guess went into effect a few years ago, because
Right.
it used to be they allowed the pop-out batteries.
Yes.
But now you have a 10-year sealed, so the
Yep.
good thing is that people don't have to worry about that smoke
Right.
detector for 10 years, because it's supposed to.
It's a great thing. Like, and if people aren't too familiar with the 10-year sealed batteries, it's, smoke detector, even carbon monoxide detectors are the same now. They make combination smoke and CO that are 10-year sealed. You install that detector and you shouldn't have to worry about it for 10 years, okay? The problem was with the 9-volt batteries, they die. After a while, the batteries get low and they'll do that annoying chirp.
Right.
So instead of replacing the battery, a lot of people get annoyed with that sound, unfortunately, and they'll take it down and never put it back up.
Right.
And that's where it comes into a safety issue, where we find it often, believe it or not, still. We'll go do an inspection, and the detector won't be up mounted.
Right, because they can't be bothered. And that's one of the most valuable things I think that realtors can do is to convey to their clients the importance of having smoke detectors, having carbon monoxide detectors, because believe it or not, like you said, unfortunately there still are those homes you go into where there's none of them in place, and then they're really jeopardizing their safety.
So and all like newer construction now, everything it's hardwired, interconnected smoke detectors, which means the smoke detector in the basement senses smoke, it alerts every single detector in the house, which in my opinion, is the best thing to have. I mean, if you're upstairs in your bedroom, sleeping with the door closed, you got music on, if you got a fire detected in the basement, you're going to get alerted of it. Right. Yeah, with those interconnected. So that's what we need to make sure that people maintain as well. Like so sometimes, real quick, they'll misunderstand the directions and they'll replace a hardwired detector with a 10-year sealed battery detector. Right. But that's you got to maintain what you originally had installed there.
Right.
Yeah, that's a little.
And I wonder if that would even maintain the system, if the system would work, or it might be an interruption in the whole circuit because you're not pulling out
it would miss that. Because you got to have that interconnected wire.
Yep. Yeah. So that would break the circuit too on top of it. Yeah. Yeah.
I learned
CO detectors, real quick. Those are important because, as you know, you can't smell CO.
Yes.
Yeah.
Odorless, and that's very important. And the one thing that the state provides, and we have them. We do have CO detectors and smoke detectors. If somebody needs them, if they're, a lot of senior citizens don't have them, so we have them. If they call us up, we could go and handle them.
Oh, that's good to know. Yeah. And they may need help if they're not plug-ins, even installing them, even though they're relatively easy, but you still have to put the two screws in and then mount them, but that, they can reach out for assistance on that.
There's a joke, right? I always say my husband is not handy.
No,
one day my husband said, I couldn't put alarm up, Jay.
I put a lot of alarms up. But in my day,
he said
I put a lot, not
handy.
just electric.
He's handy. I tell you, the first time that was like...
I just see the way that you try to put up an alarm.
I call for help. So 15 years ago, right, he put his first one up. Yeah. And the owner came. There was like so many holes.
No,
the owner said, "Who did that?" No. I said, "My husband." They said, "Oh, he's all right." Yeah. It's like so many.
No, I got the knack down with the smoke detectors, putting the little things for the anchors in for the screws, and you
he thinks he's handy now.
Practice makes perfect. That's what I can say, right?
Yeah. If you need anybody, here's the experienced one.
Well, now Grace on our team is the one. She's
the best.
She's got it down to it.
She's the best.
She has everything ready to go when we get there. When you see that name on the application that Grace is meeting the inspector, you're like, all right, they're going to pass. Everything's going to be good.
She checked.
Yeah, but we have to check everything because there's nothing worse than going to an inspection where the homeowner or the realtor hasn't checked it or pre-checked it to make sure everything's working. It's a waste of everybody's time, and then they're going to fail.
And there's times too where the realtor will make the mistake of just listening to the homeowner. Yeah, I have everything installed, and we'll get there. And believe it or not, I had a lady point to. I was like, "Man, where's your first floor smoke detector?" And she pointed at the doorbell.
The doorbell or something.
Yeah, in the hallway. I'm like, that's not your smoke detector. So it's.
Yeah, sounds good. All right, we're going to go to break. We'll be right back after these messages. Okay, welcome back to our show. So, guys, I want to continue the discussion about the residential homes and the carbon monoxide detector. I think there's often a misconception that putting the carbon monoxide detector inside the bedroom is beneficial, but that's not correct, right? It should be in the hallway outside the bedroom, and the reason being, you guys can explain.
Correct. So the reason if you have multiple bedrooms, right, you have, say, most of the time there's 3 or 4 bedrooms upstairs in a hallway.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
As long as that detector's within 10 feet of the bedrooms, it's perfect. So at night, you're supposed to be sleeping with our doors closed, all right, to prevent the spread of smoke and fire, if there was a fire in the home, right? We want to make sure that the doors we're sleeping with them closed at night. But the reason we want the carbon monoxide detector out in that hallway is so everybody in those bedrooms will be alerted of it.
Yeah.
Before it gets in the bedroom.
Right.
That's why
Yeah.
I was told
And
that's why you want it in the hallway,
yeah.
because by the time it gets in the bedroom and it goes off, it might,
Right.
Be too
so
late.
that might be too late. Yeah.
Exactly.
And that's just the minimum that you want out in the hallway. It's okay to have extras. People can please put them in your bedrooms. That's great to have
That's great,
extras.
but yeah.
You know, if you have one detector going off in the house, maybe it's a malfunction. But if you have multiple detectors, you most likely gotta.
Yeah.
got
How
a
about with
problem.
the furnace though? Because that's a little bit tricky. I had one time in the basement, but it was kind of too close to the furnace, so that can give a false. So you want to. It's not
Right.
a bad idea to have one in the basement, a carbon monoxide, even though it's not required. But you want to put it far enough away from the furnace so you don't get
At least 10 feet away.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Because anytime that kicks on, it's going to release a little bit of CO anyway. Same with a stove.
Yeah.
So-
So it makes.
But you want it away from that. And
Right.
Like you said, if there's multiple units going off, then you have an issue somewhere.
Yeah.
Especially with the season coming up now, the heating season.
Yes.
Yeah.
You know, so
It's a very good point.
But it's important. Please call 911
Yep.
should your detector, even if it's your smoke detector, but definitely for your carbon monoxide detector, please call 911 and the fire department will come out and we'll check with our meters, gas meters, for any readings in the house.
Yeah.
A lot of times people just think, it's a malfunction, and they'll unplug it. No, please call.
Please call better
we'll be
than-
sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You're not going to get in trouble. You know, a lot
Yeah,
of people
just-
get worried, like, it's no cost to you. We're going to come out and make sure.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's wonderful. Yeah. Now let's talk about fire extinguishers and the recent requirements. Now I know the law originally, like a year or so ago, they made a mandate that every residential home before closing or every landlord tenant property needed a 2A 10BC fire extinguisher.
Right.
But then as I understand it, the law shifted, so now it's not a mandate that it's up to the different townships to adopt it or not adopt it.
well, no, it's a state law. You don't
State-
need it.
Right.
You could recommend
You
it.
can, yeah.
Oh, so you don't
It's not
longer-
required.
Right.
We could recommend it, but it's not required.
So
So
it's-
if they don't have it,
Yeah.
that's fine. But you could always recommend it to have
And
one.
it's great to have. I mean, I think everybody should have a fire extinguisher, but through the years there was just a lot of confusion with it of where it needed to be mounted, and you still got to make sure that they're being maintained. They're charged.
They're charged,
Yeah, you got to
right.
check that little gauge on it and make sure it's in the green.
And also know how to use it.
Yeah,
Because
absolutely.
Correct.
That's the thing. You want to make sure if you're going to have one, and you should also be encouraged to still
Yep.
call 911.
I think you
there's a
should
fire.
call 911 first
First,
and then try to figure
100%.
out how to use it.
Yeah.
And that, a lot of people got
First thing
a
you
little
should
Yeah,
do.
confused.
call 911.
They
Yeah.
confused that too. They thought, well, do I have to put my own fire out now? It's there
Oh.
because it's there for the small fires. All big fires start small. So if you've got a cooking fire going on there that you can quickly extinguish using your fire extinguisher, that's great. Still call 911 because
you
again
never
we're going
know.
to come out and make
Therefore,
sure it
no-
doesn't
there's no
doesn't
such-
spread and
There's no such thing as a fire too small to call for help,
Correct.
right?
Yeah.
Because
100%.
a small fire will,
Right.
Yeah.
will grow pretty quickly.
Yeah.
If
Exactly.
it's left unattended.
Yeah, I remember that time when it's a compulsory for the fire distinguisher. You guys always check the bottom of the fire extinguisher.
The date.
Check
The
the
date.
date.
It has a
I learned
stencil.
from you.
No,
the
because
date.
every fire extinguisher has a stenciled date that
Yeah.
manufacturer
The
on
date.
the
Yeah.
bottom.
Yeah.
Right? And it's supposed to
Yeah.
be changed or charged every
Yeah.
year. Otherwise,
Yeah.
it's not considered in
Yeah.
compliance.
Yeah.
Some
That's only in a commercial.
In a
That has to
commercial.
be inspected.
But in the
So, yeah.
residential, though, you can. But I think the I don't know what is the current policy. If somebody has a fire extinguisher and it's in the green, even if it was manufactured 1 or 2 years ago, it still should be adequate.
They
for the-
recommend 10 to 12 years to change them out to get.
Oh, for
to get-
residential.
Commercial.
For,
Commercial.
For
No,
res-
no, commercials once
every year has
But
to be-
even
Oh,
the
okay.
extinguisher itself should be changed
Oh,
within
okay.
10 years because
Okay.
in the commercial business they get tested. Residential they don't.
Yeah.
But you should inspect them monthly because you have the hoses, they could dry rot.
Mm-hmm.
The pressure could release, like you said, and it could be in the green and go to the red. So you want to be aware of that because the last thing you want to do is pull a pin and nothing comes out.
Yeah.
And also, too, like just quick thing to do with the maintenance wise. So that powder that's in there, the dry chemical powder, if it sits for a while, it tends to sometimes cake up at the bottom, right? So if it's not being moved, it's going to harden up a little. So what you can do is you can actually just turn the extinguisher over and just kind of smack the bottom of it, and you almost feel that powder come loose in there. So you got it, ready to go. But that's something else besides, like you said, checking the gauge and make sure it's in the green. And just make sure it's not blocked.
And let's talk about mounting. They should
Yeah.
come with a mounting bracket,
Yep.
and the mounting bracket is intended to be used. You're not,
Right.
So don't be mounting it on a nail or on the shelf. I mean,
Exactly,
it should
yeah.
be it should be mounted somewhere. And I guess the rule it used to be that should be within 10 feet of the kitchen, somewhere visible. Now,
Yes.
Yeah, you want to, if it's not in the kitchen, within 10 feet of the kitchen. preferably mounted on the wall so that, somebody can see it.
At a certain height, so
Yeah.
it's not too high, not too low, but
Yeah.
so
You don't
nobody
want
can
them.
reach it.
Yeah, you don't want them buried in your kitchen cabinet.
Yeah,
There's
you have
times
to
like,
go
man,
through-
where's your extinguisher? And they have
Yeah.
to pull everything out to get to
Right.
it. It's this-
And that's what happens a lot. That's why they require them to be mounted.
Right.
People were doing that.
Yeah.
They were burying, tucking them away like a storage item, but you want it there when you need it, right?
Yeah.
So
Yes.
that's the. So what are other violations common that you see when you do the inspections, and maybe we can help as a public outreach to make the listeners aware of what not to do or what are good things, good practices for residential homes.
Yeah, it's just
Yeah.
a lot of times would be you're just making sure you're maintaining your correct smoke detectors. You want to make sure you're not replacing them with the battery, like a hardwired detector with the battery detector.
Yeah, that's something that I remember even seeing back when I used to do some of the installations. I would say, wait a minute, this house should have an electric, but there's a battery. But then you open it, you take it apart, and you see, there's wiring
The wires,
tucked in there.
yeah.
But the homeowner didn't replace it with the proper type. They replaced an electrical one with a with a battery one, and just kind of figured, well, it's working. But that's not the if the year of construction is a certain age, it has to be electrically interconnected. So.
Those
That's
issues-
why, yeah,
Go ahead.
sorry. That's why as an agent, right, I mean, at least our team, we help the owner to check them. We want to make sure because we don't want to waste your guys' time. We want to make sure everything is done per the code. If any question, we always call to find out, to learn, and that's very crucial. Sometimes the agent tend to let the owner do themselves. I mean, how often do they sell house? Maybe one in 30 years, maybe one in 5 years. But we do it every week.
Right.
So we always take that kind of burden off the owner to help them to be compliant. And before this sealed battery, and every year we always remind our client, right? Every time.
Twice a year.
Twice
Fall
a
and
year.
spring, replace the check the battery, replace them.
When you turn the clock or when
Change
you
your clocks.
Yeah,
That's the
Yeah,
when you
big
do
thing.
that was
that,
what
when
you
you
say.
change the
Yep.
clock, you check the battery, you change the filter for your HVAC if you have one. So we always, that's a realtor kind of touching the client, you remind them.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah, so with the hardwire detectors, they also have a backup battery.
Battery, right.
Yeah.
So
Yes.
just make sure those are getting changed well. The reason the backup batteries there because if there's a storm or we lose power,
Yeah.
out in the neighborhood there, you're still protected inside with those batteries.
Yes.
It's still going to do its job.
Yes.
So
yes.
just make sure those batteries are fresh and ready to go.
Yes.
Right.
But some other violations you asked about, you also got to be concerned with storage around the heating units.
Yes.
You see
Yeah.
that a lot. People put laundry. A lot of times the laundry room
Yeah.
is with the furnace. Putting storage too close to that. You don't
Mm-hmm.
want that. Or overloaded surge protectors, overloaded outlets.
Yeah.
You see
Yes.
that a lot.
Even dryer, you mentioned dryers, dryer lint that's not cleaned,
Correct.
or you should at least
Yeah.
Clean that
once a
out
year,
every
you
time.
Clean that out every time, and at least once a year or twice a year, depending on the vent. You should have it professionally cleaned, the whole vent line cleaned up to prevent a buildup of the dryer
That's
lint.
some of the common fires we'll go to will be dryer fires because of lint buildup.
Yeah.
Also, too, if you have a fireplace, especially wood burning stove and that,
Mm-hmm.
you want to make sure that's getting inspected once a year by chimney company to come out
Yeah.
and just make sure they're going to send the camera in there and look. Because sometimes too, the buildup that's in there, the creosote and that, if it
Sure.
gets hot enough, that'll cause
Yeah.
a chimney fire.
Yeah. And I guess even furnaces, you got to make sure there's no backdraft, that it's
Yep.
sealed properly with heat resistant mortar cement, because if you have holes or where the fumes can come back in, that could be a fire hazard too.
Absolutely.
That and carbon monoxide comes out that way too.
Carbon monoxide, right. So these are all critical things in the home to be aware of. Yeah.
Yeah.
Another common issue is sometimes we'll go for carbon monoxide alarms, and the reason we're finding is someone will leave their car running in the garage.
Oh,
You can't leave your car running in the garage because car exhaust, that produces
Yeah.
carbon monoxide.
Yeah.
So what happens? It eventually seeps its way into the house, and before you know it, all the detectors are going off. So it's if you keep your car in the garage, just as soon make sure the door's open when you start it, and pull it out as soon as you can. This way, the exhaust isn't built up in that garage.
Yeah.
Yeah. Also, with the smoke detectors, sometimes we run into homes where the smoke detectors are wired into a security system. But here's the issue: if the buyer doesn't maintain that security system, then how do the smoke? That's always like kind of a gray area. Like,
Right.
how do you guys view that? Because it's only as good as the security system. So as long as the current owner has a security system, I mean, it's a great feature that if there's a smoke detector alarm that goes off, the security system, the monitoring system is alerted of it, so they can help get the fire department there if the homeowner's
Right.
not there. But if the new buyer doesn't assume that security system, then that's a little bit tricky.
Yeah, that's something that they're going to need to make sure that they obviously maintain. They get it tested by the alarm company. Whether the new owner is going to keep that or not, we don't know. So at minimum, they should also have the what was originally required during the construction of that home. So if it was a house before 1977, they have an alarm system in there. They should also still have the 10-year sealed batteries.
Yeah, that's what I did for a house that we sold. This was years ago. Just to be sure, I installed a battery alarm next to every one of those alarms, so that would give the buyer protection if in the event the security system was canceled. They would at least have the batteries.
It happens more often that because those aren't required, those systems. So if someone gets them, like you said, and they don't maintain it, you still have to have what's required. So those are what we're going to check.
Yeah.
I
What's
think
required.
Yeah, I think in today's world, right, more people, more buyers not assume the alarm system. Why? Because you go to stores like Costco online, you can get relatively cheaper camera now.
Right.
So you can. I mean, we had a few you can put up. You can go on your app. You can see yourself. So a lot of people don't pay the alarm company to maintain the alarm anymore.
Right, alerts on their phone and
Yeah,
they can check
they-
themselves.
Which is
Stop
why it's
anything
even more
happen-
important
yeah.
that you make sure the smoke
The
alarms
smoke is
are
working.
working
Exactly.
Very
properly.
important. Yes.
Yeah. All right, guys. Well, thank you so much for being our guests. We're going to have you back next week to talk more about some fire safety tips, but we're out of time for this show. Once again, big thank you to Fire Marshals Jaysen Whalen and Sean Verdi for being our guests, and we'll see everybody next weekend. Enjoy the rest of your Labor Day weekend.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.